How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 2.
Hello, America. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here across the nation. The phone number 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, I would be delighted to have you. Don't forget to text Eric, E-R-I-C-K, to 33777. I've mentioned this word a couple of times. I'm a big fan of the word, the Omnicause. The Omnicause is where the Democrats are these days. It is the ever-present cause that whips them into a frenzy and gets them into the streets to protest. It is the Omnicause. On one day, it is Queers for Palestine. The next day, it is trans rights. The next day, it is Stop ICE. If you notice, you can never have a gay pride parade and a free Palestine parade at the same time because they're mutually incompatible and require the same people to be present. It is the same people all the time. It is progressive activists, a lot of them upper-income white privileged kids who get involved in the Omnicause. Driving through Atlanta the other day, there's this beam that crosses the downtown connector. It's the interstate in downtown Atlanta. They call it the Grady Curve because it loops around Grady Hospital. And on this beam, it has the word spray painted, Free Palestine, Free Sudan, Free Congo, F ICE. It is the Omnicause. Free Palestine and screw ICE. It is the exact same cause for the exact same people all the time. And with the Omnicause has come the Omniplan. It does not matter if you're a Democrat in California, a Democrat in Illinois, a Democrat in New Jersey, a Democrat in New York, or a Democrat now in Virginia. It is a one-size-fits-all solution where you can never recognize or admit your side has authoritarian tendencies, but it's always the other side. You must impose fascism to stop fascism, impose totalitarianism to stop totalitarianism, impose authoritarianism to stop authoritarianism. Do whatever you can to stop the bad thing on the other side, even as you become them, and you will never recognize it. You will never admit it. And that is where the Virginia Democrats have gone. They ran on affordability issues, that prices were too high, and Donald Trump has betrayed his promise to bring prices down. They immediately got into office, and what do? Gun control, raise taxes, redistrict out the Republicans as best they could. They ignoring a court order on that one, by the way. Screw the courts. We got to save democracy. It's the same thing. It's pro-union, it's pro-transgenderism, it's pro-abortion, it's pro-gun control. Say what you will about the Republicans, and some of you say I say too much. But the Republicans of the state of Georgia govern differently than the Republicans of the state of Alabama, govern differently than the Republicans of Florida, govern differently than the Republicans of Texas, govern differently than the Republicans of Wisconsin or Wyoming, govern differently than the Republicans of Idaho, govern differently than the Republicans of Indiana, govern differently than the Republicans of Ohio, govern differently than the Republicans of Arkansas. All of those states controlled with Republican legislatures, Republican governors, they do school reform differently. They do school choice differently. They do taxes differently. They have different opinions on guns. They have differing views on kids and after-school sports, whether they're homeschooled or not. They have different rules on all these things, different laws, different ideas, different values based on their location. But you go to the Democrats now, and they have embraced the Omnicause, and so they have the Omni platform for it. So the Democrats in Virginia are passing legislation that people in California get, are passing legislation that people in Washington get, are passing legislation that people in Oregon get, are passing legislation that people in Hawaii get, are passing legislation that people in New York get. It is a one-size-fits-all for the progressive agenda, without any nuance or regard to the state. So here's the problem in Virginia. They've decided to pass gun grabber legislation that would prohibit lawful gun owners from selling guns, among other things. You won't be able to sell your gun. You won't be able to buy ammunition. Virginia actually has a portion of the state, the southwest portion of the state, that is beautiful country, by the way, the Blue Ridge Valley and the mountains, and it's just gorgeous up there. Virginia sticks out. I mean, Virginia goes out so far west that if you go straight south from the west point of Virginia, you wind up in the east point of Georgia. And you got Marion out there. You got Princeton. You got Blacksburg, Roanoke, Lynchburg. Stretches out through the Shenandoah Valley, through the Walker Mountains and the Blue Ridge Mountains. It's conservative, it's hardy people, it's country. And now you have the elite of the northeastern part of the state in the D.C. suburbs controlling the state. In fact, they've rearranged, despite a court order telling them they couldn't redistrict. The Democrats redistricted anyway, giving a middle finger to the courts because it's the fierce urgency of now. It's the Omnicause. They must stop the rise of fascism on the right, and they must become fascists to stop the fascism. They must put on the whole armor of their enemy. And they've now drawn congressional districts so that 5 members of Congress can be elected from the same golf course neighborhood in northern Virginia, representing 5 separate distinct parts of the state that stretch out into the countryside. It is the arrogance of the city slicker Democrats imposing their views and lack of morality on everyone else. They campaigned on affordability, and they're governing as California progressives because the Democratic Party has moved so far left that there's no room for ideological division. The Republican Party has become a very broad party. We're fighting internally in the Republican Party right now over taxes and tariffs. We're fighting over free markets or more government control. We're fighting over federalist issues on abortion. We're fighting over how much further to expand or not expand gun rights. We're having all sorts of intellectual fights on the right. On the left, it is the Omnicause, the Omnifocus, the Omnipolicy, and it is all on the left. There is no nuance left. Raise taxes to fund left-wing causes, to protect left-wing prosecutors, to fund left-wing ideology in schools, to restrict guns and expand abortion and put boys in girls' locker rooms so that we are safe from the fascists of the right, and do all the redistricting. And it is true and fair. The Republicans started the fight on redistricting, and Democrats decided, you know what, we can do it too. And they've done it. It was unwise of the Republicans to pick the fight in the first place, but there's a lack of impulse control on the Republican side these days with the president. But the Democrats in Virginia are steamrolling through, and the wild part of it is the policies aren't very Virginia policies. Virginia has always, very much like in Georgia, even when the state was Democrat, Georgia was always rather a pro-business Democrat state. Progressives have become less and less friendly to business. Very hostile to small business, by the way. See, Democrats don't like small businesses because the small businesses are less likely to be unionized. So Democratic policies push people into major companies that are then unionized, and the money flows back to the Democrats. It's part of the Democratic Party strategy to fund itself. Is you hurt small businesses, you hurt the mom and pop shop. You put inordinate burdens and regulatory controls so you can't open small businesses. You drive people into the big businesses and into the cities, out of the rural areas, because that's good for the environment. They work for the major companies that are then unionized, and the union dues flow to the Democratic Party, and the virtuous cycle repeats itself. And that's what they're doing now. And I'm just kind of stunned how quickly the Democrats in Virginia abandoned all pretense of being for Virginia. They're for the Democratic Omnicause. The lack of distinction and state characteristics between those states is something. And you know, one of the interesting things is that some states, like take Pennsylvania, for example. Pennsylvania is a pretty progressive state. It's Democrat Josh Shapiro, big liberal. But Pennsylvania has kind of walked back and forth between Republican and Democrat and wobbled for so long, but has increasingly become a blue state. And they're comfortable in distinguishing themselves and not being as whipped up into the Democratic Omnicause. Part of it probably is because you have a Jewish governor who has been the subject of anti-Semitic violence as an anti-Semite tried to burn down the governor's mansion. And they've seen the anti-Semitic protests on college campuses. He's like, I don't know that I'm down for the Omnicause. You know, at Harvard, they're elevating to lead the history department a professor who gave comfort to and fed the anti-Semitic protesters there because they were fighting fascism, you see. It's the Omnicause. And the people of Virginia, they elected what's-his-name as Attorney General, despite him fantasizing about murdering someone's children because, God forbid, they have a Republican in charge. And now here's the problem. Republicans are in an echo chamber now where they've convinced themselves, mostly on Twitter, that everything is okay, and the voters hate the Democrats so much that they'll never, ever vote for the Democrats. Doesn't matter what Trump does. He's still more popular than the Democrats. By the way, you know that's true. Trump is more popular than the Democratic Party right now. But that doesn't mean he's popular. And if you paid attention to the election in Virginia, it wasn't just a wave of Democrats who showed up last year and handed them power. There were also a lot of voters who didn't like the Democrats, but they're so mad at the Republicans, they stayed home. The middle finger voters. They raised their middle finger and said, I'm not helping you guys. You need this. The data shows there's a growing body of voters who hate the Democrats, but think the Republicans need to lose as a wake-up call. And when you have a staffer for the president who will go unnamed and unpunished, posting what ended in a racist meme on his social media account, you're going to have a lot of people starting to raise their middle fingers at the Republican Party and say, I don't like the Democrats, but you people need to be beat down to get some sense back into your head. Don't underestimate the ability of the American people to realize that somebody needs some comeuppance. Y'all, humility goes a long way. Humility can go a long way. Remember, if you think you're right, at least understand when you're in the minority. And sometimes you may think you're right, but you're in the minority, and you might have to exercise some level of humility to think, okay, everybody else thinks I'm wrong, but I think I'm right. Am I really right? And the voters have a way of making you humble if you don't become humble and recognize, okay, maybe it is me. Maybe it is the Republican Party right now. People don't like the Democrats. But when they see rank incompetence coming from the White House, voters are like, guys, we don't want what's coming from the Democrats, but we can't leave incompetence in power. We can't leave you convinced of your righteousness, doing the things you're doing and not listening to us when we tell you that you're wrong. You've got to change course. And if you're not going to change course, we're going to let you suffer with the Democrats for 2 years, and we will too. And in the presidential election year, we'll restore the Republicans. But for now, you guys got to be humbled. When you see what's coming with the Democrats, Republicans, if you're not demanding change from your own side, if you're not demanding they get on their A game, if you're not demanding they choose competence over incompetence, if you're not demanding that there be consequences to the incompetence, You're playing into the Democrats' hand, and the omnicause of the left is going to come for all of us, which none of us should want, but all of us are going to get if things don't change on our side and clean up our own house before the voters do it for us. Hello and welcome. It is Eric Erickson here, 877-973-7425, this Open Line Friday. Akeem, you're going to be up first today. Welcome.
Welcome.
What's going on?
Hey, Eric. Hey, real quick, and turn the speaker off. I just wanted to speak toward this Jim Crow 2.0. I'm a Black American, and every time I hear them say that, it's a diminish to what we went through. And they use the civil rights now. It's all about gay rights, not even about what we went through to get the civil rights. It's almost like Chuck Schumer should not even utter those words out of his mouth. It was their party who pushed it, the Jim Crow. People had to guess how many jelly beans in a jar. Dogs were sent out. People was pushed. Some people was killed. And for him to say what they're passing right now is even harsher than that, 2.0. Every African American should be in uproar and say, leave that out your mouth.
Look, I agree with you, and I'm glad you called in to say it. And for the people who would defensively say, well, now, Akeem, the Republicans became the Democrats and the Democrats became the Republicans, that's actually historic nonsense. It's a fairy tale Democrats tell themselves so they can smugly feel reassured. The Democrats were propping up Robert Byrd in the United States Senate until after the year 2000, who had been a leader of the KKK, among others. George Wallace remained a Democrat, and the Democrats regularly rallied to George Wallace. Ted Kennedy opposed busing in Massachusetts because he didn't want non-white students in his white kids' public schools. And yet the Democrats like to tell themselves that they are the morally virtuous ones here when they are not. But it's predictable. 877-973-7425. It is an Open Line Friday if you want to call in. We got a lot more to cover today. We got to get to the Benghazi situation, of course, and also the president and his faith and the speech that he gave at the National Prayer Breakfast. But first, I need to tell you about Incogni. I got eaten alive with those robocalls. The warranties, and now it's you've been pre-approved for loan nonsense after I bought a car, and I don't know that they made the information publicly available or whatnot. It drove me crazy, and Incogni has helped stop those calls. Incogni has also taken my private information off the internet where it was put up for data brokers by others. Incogni is spelled Incogni, Incogni, Incogni. And what Incogni does is it serves as your representative to go to the data brokers online and send them letters demanding they take down your information. And they're very persistent. They don't just send a letter and go to the next site and send a letter and go to the next site and send a letter. They send the letters and then they do constant follow-up. You can get 60% off Incogni's subscription by going to incogni.com/Eric. That's incogni.com/ERICK. Incogni will work behind the scenes to take down all of your information wherever they can take it down. They work tirelessly on your behalf so that people can't find you online. They can't get your address. They can't get your ties to other members of your family, all of that. Incogni.com/Eric, incogni.com/ERICK. Hello and welcome. It is Eric Erickson here. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, Jim in Fort Myers, Florida, you're going to be next. Welcome.
Eric, love you to death, brother. I studied history under a professor in Marion, Indiana Wesleyan University, named Dr. Glenn Martin, who's deceased. And he was a prayer partner of Anwar Sadat before he passed. Anwar was a closet Christian, and Dr. Martin would reinterpret history into a biblical Christian, from a biblical Christian perspective, because the secular textbooks back then were all we had. Just a couple of quick things here. I loved your analogy on the Democrats being evil. And the Republicans being stupid. Trump trying to kind of makes that point about the Democrats lie, cheat, and steal, have terrible policies, but stick together. I got a little bit of a disagreement with you here that I don't really think the Republicans are going to be able to overcome. Unfortunately, probably I would say 10 to 15% of the base now are strictly only Trump voters. And I've been to 11 Trump rallies and 2 boat parades and hang out with a lot of the MAGA people and those kinds of things. They're really not upset with the Democrats. They're upset with the Republican Party in regards to the Tillises and the Rand Pauls and the Murkowskis and the Collinses and those in the House that fight Trump on everything. And so I'm not sure Trump even has any sway over these people anymore, especially when it comes to the midterms. So I don't look for a great result. Unfortunately for the Republican Party, they're probably going to lose at least 10% of their base as Trump's not running again. But I just don't think this can be fixed within the Republican Party, and that's just my opinion. I don't think it's trying to convince independents and Democrats to vote Republican. I just think those that have voted for Trump see how he's treated within the
Jim,
party.
I got to tell you, and a lot of people bristle when I say this, but I'm actually, it's true and it's backed up by the data. A lot of the people who came into the Republican Party to vote for Donald Trump weren't actually traditional Republican voters. A lot of them happened to have been blue-collar Democrats who really, they didn't like the Republicans to begin with, but they loved Trump and they were willing to give him Republicans. And that's why they don't show up in elections when Trump's not on the ballot. And the GOP does have to deal with that part of the problem. The other issue, though, is I would keep in mind that the parties that become hungry for wins have the same divisions all the time. It's just they get hungry for the win and they set it all aside. And the GOP's not hungry for the win right now, so they can be at each other's throats and the various factions of the party blaming each other and whose fault is it, et cetera, et cetera. And the Democrats right now, they just want to win. And so they actually do have internal divisions, but they're setting those aside, and they tend to be better at setting them aside just for the sake of raw power. And that's what we're seeing play out on the stage right now. And by the way, I agree with you. I think it's not fixable on the Republican Party side. The only way to fix it to a degree is they lose and decide they want back power. But when they're in the majority, though, the Republican factions tend to break apart more because there is more intellectual diversity on the Republican side. And that's something I think a lot of people forget, is that on the GOP side, you have a lot more people who are divided about a lot of stuff. The Democrats have become a much more homogenous party. As the Republican Party becomes more diverse racially and ethnically, it also becomes more diverse with ideas. And the Democrats will deny that. They will laugh at me for saying it, and all the data is there. Just think about the major cultural issues. You are more likely to find a Republican who will support trans rights than a Democrat who won't. You are more likely to find a Republican who supports abortion than you are a Democrat who won't. You are more likely to find a Republican who supports gay marriage than a Democrat who won't. Far more intellectual diversity on the Republican side, even on gun issues and things like that. Now, I'm going to, if I haven't made all of you mad today, this might do it. I should begin with the caveat. I do not set out to antagonize my audience, and occasionally I do. And I'm glad you love me and you keep coming back, and I hope you still will after I say what I'm about to say. Yesterday was the National Prayer Breakfast. If you haven't heard some of the excerpts, I got to tell you, I think one of the best speeches given at the National Prayer Breakfast was Governor Bill Lee of Tennessee yesterday, who, his first wife died tragically. His daughter attempted to take her own life. He has lived Job's life and come through to the other side. And it was a remarkable speech by Governor Bill Lee. The President of the United States also spoke at the National Prayer Breakfast. And I was not exactly enamored with President Trump's speech. It characteristically lacked the discipline we have come to expect from Donald Trump, and it became at a prayer breakfast a very, very partisan speech. Even going on to, just attacking Thomas Massey at the speech. Talk about turning the other cheek and loving your neighbor at the National Prayer Breakfast.
Is an automatic no. No matter what, if we did welfare reform, if we did the greatest thing in history for religion, no matter what we did, no matter how good it is, greatest tax cuts, and we just did the greatest tax cuts in history, he voted against. He voted. Now, no matter what we do, this moron, no matter what it is.
That's the National Prayer Breakfast, turning it into a campaign rally. I was disappointed in the speech, and I want to say something here, and this is why when I say stuff like this, listeners really get mad at me, because this actually isn't about Donald Trump. People hear it, and they want to say I'm attacking Donald Trump, but I'm not. I am attacking the people of faith who surround Donald Trump, and I'm criticizing them now. You cannot listen to the President of the United States and think he is going to heaven. This is not a who are you to judge Erickson moment. This is a man who says he's not sure he's getting in. He's not sure what he can do to get in. He has never had to repent for anything in his life. He's told me that directly. He said it on stage with Frank Luntz. He said it repeatedly that he's never had to repent in his life. He has said very recently that he's not sure. He doesn't know what he can do to get in. Mr. President, there is nothing you can do to get into heaven. Mr. President, nothing you or I can do can get us into heaven. It doesn't matter how good I am or you are. It doesn't matter how many good things we do for other people. It does not matter what we do. Nothing we do can get us into heaven, Mr. President. And every time you speak, you suggest you think you have to do something. There's only one thing you can do to get into heaven. That is to put your faith in Jesus as your Lord and Savior. And then he does everything for you. He regenerates your heart. He restores your soul. And it is very clear to me from the way the President of the United States talks, he is surrounded with these evangelical ministers. He supposedly has this faith council who prays over him, who on occasion he mocks and laughs at. And I don't know that they've actually made it clear to him, buddy, there is a hell and you're going to it. I don't know that any of these people, that they're so interested in the crumbs from the table. I've had people come to me, by the way, you should know, prominent evangelicals, some of whom who have passed, who will tell you, oh, yeah, I heard him share the gospel with him, or I shared the gospel with him, and he accepted Jesus. I know it. I know he did. And people want to make excuses and say, well, he's a baby Christian. He's a baby Christian. Well, if you're a baby Christian, at some point as a Christian, you grow up, you get mature in your faith. He's had how long? Don't hear me criticizing him, criticizing his faith council that surrounds him and prays for him, and I think is too intimidated to sit down and tell him, buddy, you're going to go to hell. You need an authentic, heart-changing embrace of Christ as your Lord and Savior, and he'll do everything. You don't have to do anything. For the one time in your life, Mr. President, you don't have to do anything for anyone to get God's grace. He gives it all to you. He wants a relationship with you. But if it is not authentic in your heart, and he will know, we will not, he will know, it's going to matter. Do you want to spend eternity in hell? The President of the United States is surrounded by ministers who want things for their churches, for their denominations, for Christians in America. It is completely transactionally based. And the Lord Almighty, maker of heaven and earth, is not a transactions-based friend. He is a real friend. Come hell or high water, he's with you. But you got to be with him. It's not a transaction. It is not a, you give me heaven today and then I can go dabble in hell tomorrow sort of relationship. And I'm worried about the man. And I don't know that enough Christians are. They get very defensive. When I bring this up in these evangelical meetings, they get very, very defensive. Well, so-and-so, well, I mean, they met with him. What did they say to him? What did they say? Did they go to have the frank conversation with him? Because I don't know that they did. His time is running out on this planet. Don't give me the who are you to judge. I don't have to. I'm not in a position to, and I'm not telling you I am. But when I'm telling you that I hear someone say, I don't know that there's anything I can do to get into heaven, and I've never had to repent of anything in my life, that is someone who doesn't understand they are a sinner, and that is someone who thinks there is something they have to do to get into heaven. And both of those things are anathema to the gospel. And so then I see today a bunch of people. By the way, Carolyn Leavitt this morning, the White House press secretary, defended the video on Truth Social. Carolyn Leavitt defended the video on Truth Social. And now they're saying it was a White House staffer. It wasn't the president. It was a mistake. It was deleted. So she defended it. And after she defended it, 12 hours it stayed online. And now they're like, well, we took it down. Oopsie, our bad. It shouldn't have been put up. And oh, by the way, it was erroneous. But no, the staffer's not getting fired. And we're not going to acknowledge incompetence or anything like that. And too many Trump supporters are out saying, see, it was put up in error. See, they took it down. See. Yeah, I've seen a lot. And I've seen a lot that makes me think too many people think they're friends with Donald Trump, and they're not. They're in it for what he can give them. And they don't care whether he's going to heaven or hell. And that includes a lot of theologians. If you take your faith seriously, you should be concerned about the eternal resting place of the President of the United States, and you should be praying for him. Whether you like him or not, you should be praying for him anyway. But I'm thoroughly disappointed in the evangelical leadership of this country that regularly meets with the president to get good things for the Christians in America and have seemed to leave the best thing on the table, and that is the eternal gift of God's glory to Donald Trump, who they just see as an instrument of their will to get things for themselves and don't seem to care about the man's soul. If you love your neighbor, care about their soul. And if you are a person who has access to the president on a regular basis as a representative of the Christian faith in this country, if you're not telling him his days are numbered, the grim reaper comes for us all, and you must make the choice now. And the choice is not what can you do, but what can God do for you if you put your trust in him. If you're not sharing the real good news, if you're making it a transactional thing, if you're not trying to emphasize it to him, if you're dismissing it and say, well, you can't teach an old dog new tricks and he's 80, all men can have their heartstrings pulled by Christ. I'm angry at the people who go to the president for the church and don't seem to really care whether he's a part of it or not. He's the president of the United States. I'd like to see him there one day. And just based on his words, I don't think he gets it. And if he doesn't get it, I think that some people have failed to share the real message with him. And we should not be troubled so much with the president as with those faith leaders around him who don't seem to really care about where the man winds up. Howdy, howdy, howdy. Welcome. The phone number is 877-973-7425. I have to tell you, before I even got to commercial break, I had the hate mail on that last one. stand by every word I said. I'm sorry. I guess we can move on. We do have other stuff that we need to talk about, including the Dow Jones on the verge of hitting 50,000. How many people will scream racism? Given today's events, how many people will conclude, oh, the Dow is racist, it must like racism? You know, the one of the stories that the Washington Post did, they hired a race and racism reporter who has now been let go, who wrote a major story on the racist legacy of a bird because of the bird's name tied to John James Audubon. And it was an actual, like, serious think piece about a racist bird because the bird had a name tied to John James Audubon. And people are like, I can't believe the Washington Post is laying off so many people and wasn't making any money. Yeah, people. Yeah. It's just wild to me that we live in a society where just the everyone profits in some way from race. And you know what I think it actually is we as a nation are far less racist than we have ever been. We have perpetually moved to a better day. There are still racists because there are still sinners and evil in the world, but they're fewer and fewer. We as a nation have progressed, and you can't deny we haven't progressed. We've had the first black president, the first black vice president. We have had greater access to colleges for black kids, literacy rates improving in the South, actually outpacing northern and western states in literacy. The rate of entry into the middle class has gone up for black Americans. The access to the vote has expanded. And yet there are so many people who profit off the idea that we are as racist as we were 100, 200 years ago, and they can't let it go. We are not a perfect people. We're not. We still have a lot of sins in this country, including racism, but we sure are better than we were. Now, I got to tell you about Swiss America because Swiss America wants to educate you on protecting your hard-earned assets right now, educating you about the secret war on cash that is out there. And they would love to get you their report that is completely free, the Secret War on Cash report. You can get it by calling or texting 800-289-2646, 800-289-2646. The All-Out War on Cash includes digital forms of currency, and it's spreading. So get the Secret War on Cash report. Just mention Eric when you call or text 800-289-2646. You can also go to SwissAmerica.com/Eric, ERICK, SwissAmerica.com/Eric, or 800-289-2646. Message and data rates may apply.